Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is so awesome to see you all here this afternoon to join me for a brief discussion around style guides, which I consider the branding book for each and every one of our organizations. If you don't have one, we're going to talk about some ways that you can develop one for yourself, and then we're going to talk about the purposes and what it is exactly. So we're going to go ahead and fire up this presentation and get on the road. Our favorite Zoom term or favorite Zoom catchphrases. Can everybody see my screen? So can everybody see my screen? We're good to go. All righty. So I would love to start this presentation off with a simple question. Has a person or an organization used or altered your organization's logo without your permission ever? You can utilize the chat for this, yes or no. Answers really for this, or maybe if you're not certain. But please share, has a person or an organization used or altered your logo without your permission? Okay, got two yeses and a maybe. Not that I know of, and that's a good one too. That's a great answer, because it could very well be happening to you. You don't even see it. No, unsure. Yes, good. Well, this is all good feedback to have. And the reason why I say this is because this exact thing that we're going to talk about today will help mitigate that issue, this main issue. The reason why I asked this question as well is because our organization as well has run into this issue with others, utilizing our logo or altering it, utilizing our older logo as we have actually rebranded and updated ours, just because they didn't have access to our new logo and different things. So this conversation today will help you mitigate that risk and not allow organizations to do that to you, but as well as teach you about what a style guide truly does, developing your own brand identity for yourself or for your organizations, and then being able to implement and maintain a style guide throughout your organization as you are matriculating over years and changing staffs and different things. So today's order of presentation, we'll talk through these base topics right here, our base focus points throughout each of the throughout the presentation as a whole. What is a style guide? Components of a style guide, importance of a style guide, brand identity, building brand identity with style guides, examples of effective style guides, implementing and maintaining style guides, and then a brief case study on an organization or an entity right now that has done a style guide and what did they utilize it for through a rebranding process. So, what is a style guide? The base definition of a style guide is a set of standards for the writing, formatting, and design of documents, either for general use or for a specific publication, organization, or field. So, back in my early days, the first thing I learned, the first style guide I became introduced to was in high school. My English teacher had us write what is known as an MLA paper. A lot of you have probably heard of that. If not through college and undergrad and high school. Graduate studies have different forms, APA and other writing formats as well. But she gave us a MLA style guide, and that style guide showed us the correct format of being able to write a MLA formatted paper. So different companies and different entities, as for example, here I have Airbnb, utilize style guides to set the standards of text, color palettes, buttons, icons, their logo, everything that they use. And the reason why I use Airbnb is they recently had a rebrand not too long ago, and we'll actually come back to that at the end of the presentation. But Airbnb and the story of their rebrand and how they did it and how they executed it so well is one of my favorite stories of really brand identity and zeroing in on how to build your own brand, whether it be personal or professional, and how to stay consistent with what the vision that you have for your organization or for yourself as you're in here or as you're in this presentation today, trying to learn ways to build your own brand identity. So components of a style guide. So style guides contain a bunch of information, but to me, these 5 points here really are the focuses to me of a true style guide. So logo usage, that is guidelines for the proper logo placement and sizing and clear space. So what I mean by that is how much space should be around your logo. Does it need to stand out on its own? Can it be kind of jumbled up or put with other logos, or does it need to have its own defined space? How big can it be? if it's in the right place where it should be alignment wise on different copies of documents or flyers or different things that you have going on. The color palette. Define colors and their specific usage in various context. And the reason why we love to talk about color palette is because people will manipulate your logo and change the color of it, which is a no-no, a huge no-no, especially if your color palette speaks to your brand or the vision or the message that you're trying to convey to the public-facing viewer. If they change that, it could affect how your organization is viewed. Typography or different fonts, the font styling, so approved fonts for different mediums and guidelines for their usage. So for example, with United Partners for Human Services, our logo utilizes the Montserrat font. You can find that on any Microsoft Word or Canva or any of platforms that utilize different fonts. Most times you can find that font online, but if you find out the font for your logo, it allows people to not change it or distort it from that perspective as well either. Tone of voice. This is a huge one. And we're going to talk about this more through brand identity, but maintaining that consistent brand voice and messaging. What is the message you're trying to convey? What is it that your organization truly does? What are the things that create that consistency that when they see your logo or when they see your brand or when they see your messages, that it looks the same, it feels the same, it conveys the same message every single time, and it's no ambiguity about what the organization or what you as the person does, and it just speaks clearly and concise to the viewer. And then visual elements, including imagery, graphics, and iconography consistent with brand identity. And the reason why you do that very well, as I showed in the Airbnb style guide, they use different icons, different graphics, different imagery that again conveys the message of what they do and how well that they do it. So if your organization or you yourself utilizes any graphics, imagery, or icons that utilize that as well, you want it to be consistent all across the board. I know some larger organizations or organizations tied to national brands have it really focused on in the visual elements perspective, icons, things like that, imagery and graphics. But grassroots organizations, it may just be one thing, the simple logo or initiative that you have that you created a logo around. But as you build and grow, you want to be able to catalog that throughout the style guide. And I'll actually talk about how style guides are living documents and how they should be consistently updated just as much as you do your board documents or your bylaws or any of those things. So components of a style guide. Can anybody tell me what this logo is? And you can type it in the chat or come off mute and let me know.
Spotify?
Spotify, that is correct. I utilize Spotify as my favorite apparatus to listen to music to. But the reason why I wanted to utilize them as our components of a style guide is because they, on their website, if you all can see that, give me a thumbs up if you can see the website link that just popped up. Perfect. So on their website, you get a really defined style guide on how to utilize their logo, what you can do, what you cannot do, and different variations of that. So the green, white, and black logos that they utilize within it, from how you can use it on images, yes, using that on black and white. No, you cannot use it on an image or on a brand palette to utilize those things. Naming restrictions and logos, the font that it comes in, all of these different things that specify what you can and cannot do with it most times are living on the websites of your favorite brands. So Nike, Coca-Cola, Airbnb, Chobani, any of the brands that you utilize daily in your everyday life, most times they have a style guide or a branding guide on their website, you do's and don'ts and how you can utilize their logos as you're doing it for your own. I did not talk to Spotify about using the logo in the presentation, so I hope they don't kill me for that. But all in all, this is a great example of being able to utilize a style guide and having it as a living platform on your website, so it can show you different ways of utilizing logos and how they should be managed. The importance of a style guide. Well, first off, the consistency. The best brands that you see when you look on things on social media, on TV, or any media platform is how consistent are they in their messaging? How consistent are they? That's uniformity across all brand touch points. So it fosters that recognition and that trust. For example, On the radio, I know this theme commonly. I know a lot of us here in Tallahassee probably know it. CITI, City Trends. Yeah, used to hear that as a kid growing up so much in my head, but it was because it was uniformed, it was used, it was consistent, and it ensured that that consistency happened throughout everything that they did when it came to the radio or TV commercials that they put out. And that's just uniformity of being sure that they're conveying to you that they are, the number one shopping store for you to shop locally for clothes here. Efficiency, streamlining the design and content creation process by providing clear guidelines. So, as other organizations, let's say you collaborate with an organization on a project, or you're allowing an organization to list you as a sponsor or recognize you within the community, this wonderful document will streamline that process and provide clear guidelines to them, as well as your internal designers or people that you may hire or people that you may contract with to be able to not alter or distort the logo in any way that you don't deem as purposeful. Clarity. So helping the teams and stakeholders of the organization or the entity or the business understand the brand's visual and verbal identity. So a lot of us like to put taglines, a lot of us like to have hashtags, a lot of us like to have different things that add or bolster that identity of the organization or entity or business. But the style guide shows the clarity, it shows the reasoning behind why you are so systemic in creating this the way that it is, because it all bolsters towards the collective vision and mission of your organization and what you do, or the collective vision and mission of what you as your own personal brand do as well. And then protection. As I stated earlier, if you've known of organizations or entities that have misused your logo or used it without permission, this protects you. Having this document within your organization or on hand for yourself safeguards your brand's integrity, and it prevents misuse or misrepresentation in the wrong ways. Because if your organization doesn't align with an entity that does utilize your logo, or doesn't align with the focuses of the goal that you have for your organization, you can utilize this document or offer this document to them and say, hey, this is all we go by when it comes to you utilizing our logos. If you cannot use it in any of these ways, then we will have to move other words or not be allowed to participate in this. Do I have any questions so far? I want to make sure I'm staying good with pacing and time. So do I have any questions or comments thus far from anyone that would like to share? Please feel free to come off mute before we head into the next section of the presentation. All righty. Brand identity. So I love to talk about brand identity because I think a lot of people misunderstand how brand identity works and all the pieces, or what I like to call the recipe to create a really good brand identity for you, your organization, your business, or whatever the undertaking is of the project that you're undergoing. So I'm very, very excited to talk about this, but I always like to input games. So we're going to play a quick game real quick. And I want to see, can you identify these organizations based on the following things below? Listed 1 through 5. You don't have to answer all 5, but if you know any of the ones, you can say, hey, number 1 is this, number 2 is this. Feel free to come off mute or list them in the chat of the ones that you recognize or see. And I can give a hint if anybody needs a hint. That is correct. Number 1 is She Academy. Thank you, LaShawn, for answering that. And number 5 is Career Source Capital Region here locally. Yep. Number 2 is Boys and Girls Club of the Big Bend. They utilize Great Future Start here a lot as their term. Yeah. We're gonna give our other people in the crowd a chance, LaShawn. So we're gonna see if anything else. 3, 4. Can anybody answer those, or can anybody identify what they are? Alrighty. Well, I appreciate everyone that could answer the ones that were here. And the reason why I like to do this is to see these are different messaging or methods that these entities utilize to identify themselves or utilize as a part of shaping the message that they do of the work they do within our community. So number 1 is She Academy. They love using the term boss babes because that is what they cultivate within their program. They are a young girls, young women's empowerment organization here locally. Number 2 is Boys and Girls Club of the Big Ben. Every time I see Casey and every time I hear Casey present about the Boys and Girls Club here locally, he always uses great futures start here. And it's on every single one of their social media posts. If you scroll through their Facebook, Instagram, any of their platforms, that hashtag great futures start here is through everything. So it's consistent. It's that brand identity that plays a role in that. Number 3, Be Big, is Big Brothers, Big Sisters of the Big Ben. So it's very, very funny for them to be Big Brothers, Big Sisters of the Big Ben. They used the hashtag Be Big for all of their things as well. So very, very cool. Number 4 is part of the logo of the Foundation for Leon County Schools. They recently just hosted their karaoke event not too long ago. But the Foundation for Leon County Schools utilizes that pencil logo with a chevron kind of going through it. And then the Foundation for Leon County Schools is on the right side of that. And then number 5, as everybody identified, is Career Source Capital Region here locally. So thank you all for playing this little game. But again, these are little ways that these organizations utilize hashtags or logos or different things to embody the message, vision, and mission of that they're trying to share and cultivate within each of their organizations. So brand identity, like I said, it's a recipe, right? Brand identity isn't just a hashtag. It isn't just a URL. It isn't just a tagline. It's a collection of all of those elements that a company creates to portray the right image to its consumer. And that's just not companies, that's our nonprofit organizations, that's our for-profit businesses, that's our personal businesses that we all may have, and just the brand that we're trying to share. It is a collection of the elements that you use to embody or portray the right image to their consumer. So it's not just about the logo, it's not just about the color scheme. Like I said, it's not just about the URL, the hashtag, or the tagline, but it's about the emotions and the perceptions that are associated with the brand. So for example, I have Coca-Cola, and this is their example of brand identity within theirs. They utilize that color of red. As we know, the positive things that we see from the color red are power, passion, energy, fearlessness, and excitement. But the negative side of that is anger, danger, warning, defiance, aggression, and pain, right? So how do they utilize these shades, these tints, these tones to be able to share that bold, adventurous, energetic vision that you see every time you see the can, every time you see a commercial, every time you see an advertisement? They utilize it in different ways. So as you can see, they utilize different shades, tints, and tones to convey the message of power, passion, energy, excitement. But also it may be the music, also it may be what the actor says in the script. There's a multiplicity of ways how they can convey those emotions and perceptions associated with the brand. But if we're just looking at the logo, Coca-Cola, that red is very, very harsh, but they use that happy balance of white to kind of, show that levity within the logo as well, too. So it's not all harsh, it's not always on go, but it shows that happy balance. Starbucks. Many of us enjoy a hot cup of coffee from Starbucks from time to time. And they utilize their brand identity prism in a different way as well. So green and white, as we know, green typically is a color of healing or cleansing, as well as white, but also it is a color of, which we'll talk about within the cultural aspect of it, the environment outside, our trees, our grass, right? And how that looks. Through the logo, you see this smiling woman, right? So the relationship is personalization, it's friendliness, it's proximity and being close, right? It's a circular logo with arms outreaching around it. So again, that proximity or that close-knit circle that you like to have, that's what Starbucks wants you to feel. When you walk into their coffee shop, it is a space for you to be able to work together, for you to be able to come together, socialize, work on different things together. So they're going to embody that through everything that they do branding-wise. The reflection, right? So they're looking for social classes or different upper classes, traditional or stylish, right? They're looking for different ways to reflect upon those sectors to be able to enrich their brand even more. The personality of Starbucks, they want to be friendly, they want to be social, they want to be cheerful, right? They want to portray that they are always going to do the best thing possible. They're going to give you the greatest thing ever every time you walk into the Starbucks. Every drink that you purchase when you go through that drive-thru or you walk into their building is going to be the best cup of coffee you've ever tasted. And that's why their culture is so strong and focuses on that great customer service and quality that they can offer. But if you notice, like I said, that green is also environment. They care for the environment. If you notice, their cups may be made from recycled things, and the napkins as well are made from recycled things as well. And then self-image, right? It's stylish, it's dynamic, it's quality oriented, and it focuses again on human relationships and human interactions. That circle, that hugging of the arms, it's being able to wrap around and focus on developing the human interaction and human relationships of the customers that they have. If that's customer to the business itself, if it's customer to customer, if it's business to business, Starbucks wants to show that their focus from a self-image perspective is always focused on how do we connect better as human beings and how do we interact better as human beings. All right, so how do we build our brand identity with our style guides, right? How do we marry the two sides together and become one? Building brand identity with style guides will help you with reflecting values, right? Style guides ensure that every communication aligns with that brand's core value or mission. So again, if you have a business, if you have an organization that you work for, or you're just building a personal brand for your own self business as an entrepreneur, you have to ensure that every communication aligns with your core value and mission of what you're doing. Here at United Partnership Human Services, I'll use our logo for an example. We chose the logo of a compass, right? Because we're leading our sector towards being able to work together more collectively, but also advocating, right? We're a voice for our sector to ensure that we aren't missing the mark on anything and that we're able to show our footprint, our viewpoint of how our services impact everyone that we serve daily, right? So that is the way that we utilize reflecting values, right? Our compass logo shows that we're pointing in that direction. That's why we have the highlighter one as the northern one. That shows that highlighting that we're pushing our sector towards newer goals, newer dreams, newer heights as we're continuing to look together and being that organization to be that on the behalf of the sector. Creating cohesion. Consistent visual and verbal elements help to create a unified brand experience, right? So again, like I talked about earlier with Coca-Cola and Starbucks, you see that logo on every single thing that they do because they want to create a unified brand experience and it's consistent. They use that same verbal thing. For us at UPHS, our same verbal element is the power of the collective. You see it on every post. We say it in presentations when we go out to meet people or explain what our organization does. We're really focused on growing our network towards working together more and more and actually realizing that, hey, none of this work can be done in separateness or silos. We have to come together. We have to be able to build together. And where else can you find that more so than human services, right? Within our social services, right? Those are the sectors that create that groundwork or that fertile soil to be able to work together is because we have to help each other as human beings through the human services sector daily. Differentiation. Establishing unique style items sets the brand apart from competitors. So as you saw in the Airbnb one, and I'll come back to that towards the end of the presentation, they have icons, right? And those icons, even though it's a bird, it's an eye, it's a tree, it's the little things, right, that you see every day, how they made them fit the brand identity of Airbnb sets it apart from anyone else's tree, eye, bird that they see on their logos or within their platforms as well. And then the flexibility of it all. While maintaining that consistency, style guides allow us to adapt to different mediums and audiences. So how are you utilizing your logo to convey the message on social media? How are you doing it in print media? How are you doing it on flyers, different things like that? You always want to have that flexibility to be able to do it in a multiplicity of ways. Before I get into this wonderful organization here, do I have any questions, any comments, or anything that anyone would like to share thus far? Sounds like a plan. So everyone knows this logo here. As I said, the name is in it, so I won't ask you, hey, do you know who the organization this is? It's the Rotary, right? And one thing I want to identify with this organization, as you'll see pulling up now, is this is their voice and visual identities guideline. But I want you to see how in depth a huge organization like the Rotary utilizes its brand or style guide to be able to craft messaging even. So as we scroll through this, they talk about for more than 100 years, Rotary has united leaders who are committed to using their expertise to take action and improve their communities. And let me zoom in on this just to make sure that you all can see it. There we go. So they utilize the fonts, they utilize their logo, they utilize their color palettes to ensure that it's conveying united leaders who are committed to using their expertise to improve and take action, right? So as we scroll through this, they have different sectors within Rotary and how they're able to do it. So if you see somebody use the word Rotary, this is what they're focusing on, and that's what they call themselves when referring to the enterprise as a whole, right? The whole organization. If they use Rotary International, it's how they refer to their global association of the 3,500 clubs that they have across the country and world, and the governance and offices that support each of them. And then if they talk about the Rotary Foundation, that is their fundraising and grant making arm specifically, right? When appropriate and utilizing that terminology when legally required as well. So boom, the one thing that I love to see with this is they've created terms around their voice and around their messaging. Many organizations don't take that step to really find terms or adjectives to describe what is the messaging that we're trying to convey as we're developing our brand. And they use persevering, right? They're determined, they're bold, they're courageous, and they speak with clarity and conviction. So their example for that is since 1979, we've helped eradicate polio in all but 3 nations worldwide. Today, we're dedicated to ending polio in our lifetime, right? It's showing that they're going after the goal, right? It sounds like they're determined, and nothing is going to stop them from achieving that. They started it back in 1979, and they've been able to do it to every single country but 3. And we're going to get to that 3. And that's what they're letting you know in that statement. Inspiring, right? They motivate others through their positivity, enthusiasm, and passion. So with Rotary or becoming a part of Rotary, you'll create lasting change across the globe in your community and in yourself. That inspires you to want to become a part of this organization and wants you to connect and become more as you're unifying yourself with a community of leaders to create more change and inspire action within your communities. Compassionate, right? They care about the people that they're assisting. Tackling the world's toughest challenges require empathy. We champion real people and stories that are relatable and universal, right? It's showing that through it all, through the work that we do, we're all about helping the person on the other side receiving our services, right? And then smart. We are perceptive and use our expertise to solve problems in creative ways. We started with water because everything starts with water. Without access to clean water, peace cannot exist, right? And that is true. Without clean water, you don't have stable communities. You don't have ways. We saw that here locally within the US with Flint, Michigan, right? They didn't have clean water and it became an uprising of people that were sharing their piece and sharing about what they were going through within that city. So all of this within their vocal voice and visual identity guidelines or their style guide, essentially, they share how they want their voice to be sculpted. When you use a statement on their behalf, they're showing you this is how we tell stories at Rotary, and this is how we would like to be identified or utilized as you are sharing this information with your people or as you're showing that you're a part of the Rotary clubs. Effective style guide suggestions. So this wonderful organization was started back in 2009, a small grassroots movement, really started and sparked because of a YouTube video that was done by an artist. And it became now a global organization that works with organizations across the world to empower young women and young children to be able to see more within themselves, but also be leaders on the front line of issues that affect women globally. So the one thing I love about their style guide and what they've done with it here is it's one page, right? So what I wanted to show with this, especially it being via the website browser, is you don't have to have this 95-page document. You don't have to have this, this huge stylistic thing that looks great and it shows and it caters everything. I may have shown you plenty of examples of that today from really big brands, your Coca-Colas, your Starbucks, your Airbnbs, right? Those are global brands. But if you being a local community organization or you being someone that works just exclusively with certain audiences or certain communities, you don't have to have it that big. But as you work with other people and as your brand grows, you will have to start setting guidelines because people will start to utilize these things to affect the work that you're doing. So the reason why I like to use She's the First, and I do see the questions in the chat and I'll answer those right after I finish this, The reason why I like to use She's the First is because it's just one page on the website, one logo they have. She's the First. You can download it here, utilize it for that. They show you, they tell you what guidelines as their nonprofit organization you can use it as. So individuals who wish to fundraise on behalf of the organization may use the logo and select images with attribution or recognizing them. In the context of promoting She's the First in the work, or businesses who wish to donate on behalf of the company, they'll actually have to submit a marketing inquiry form, which a lot of organizations don't have either. To maintain compliance with IRS and governing nonprofit and for-profit partnerships, they request that you do not use it without approval, right? Because that can affect them in terms of the guidelines stated by the IRS. But logos here, colors, they give you each of the color codes. So as you work on Canva or Premiere Pro or DaVinci, whatever editing software that you utilize to create flyers or different things, they give you the colors that they utilize exclusively. Their mission statement. So again, you can convey the message of what this organization does well and why they do what they do and to fulfill the mission that they do every day. The language of it all, you can represent yourself as a supporter of She's the First or say that your product or services benefit the organization, and being transparent about what percentage of a transaction goes directly to their organization. So again, if you are donating to them and you say, hey, I want to utilize this, and they tell you how much it is, they want you to say, hey, this is what it is. Like this percentage of funds may go to this, and then this percentage comes to us to continue to bolster our mission and vision. And then again, they have photos. So if you want to use photos to show what the organization is doing, they have already approved photos that you can click through their Flickr album and take, right? So again, if somebody is trying to use your organization, you have event pictures and different things, you can create a photo album that shows the pictures of you all doing your work and not having to find nothing. I know too often when I've helped with the organizations or assisted, it's me having to look on your social media page for photos or me having to Google your organization to find them. A lot of organizations move to the point of creating these albums so you can already find them and locate them through their website. So that is another way or another tip that your organization can utilize that as well. And then also tagging their social media pages. I'm huge on this, especially working at United Partners for Human Services. When we post about your events, when we post about your awards, accomplishments, any of the things that are going on within your organizations, we're always going to make sure to tag you, the person you received it from, all those things, because they all have a buy-in to the overall message, right? That's being shared. They all have a consistent buy-in in that one. So I'm gonna take some questions here that I see in the chat, and I'm gonna start with Serene's, and it says, many of us may join agencies with legacy logos or branding. How do you recommend navigating updating style guides for modern design sense without necessarily needing to overhaul the agency's 20-year logo? Or should we be pushing to update everything from the ground up, or do things like typeface in the style guide not have to be tied to the logo? This is a wonderful question because I just undergone that here myself. So when it comes to a legacy logo, right, when it comes to something that you are entering into, right, the consistency of the style guide is just supposed to catalog that history for you, right? So as you, because again, you, the person, are yourself, but you're in a role. The role will continue to live as long as you're in the position or not in the position. But to create a style guide, you have to be able to show the history of those changing. If you don't want to overhaul or rebrand or change the logo completely, and like you like what your logo is currently, you just want to make a little change to it, it could be updating the font. It could be little tweaks. It could be updating the logo symbol of the organization, just tweaking it just a hair. If it's adding something or adding in a new message that you all do within your organization, those are little tricks of the trade that you can do to rebrand the organization or just update it, right? Because one thing I will tell you, most organizations do updates to their logos about every 5 to 7 years. Rebrands are done if you hit that 15 to 20-year window most times within organizations, because the messaging has changed. How your organization is looked at has changed. The message that you're sharing as the organization has changed as well. So you may want to find a logo that encompasses everything that you're doing now, because again, where you started isn't where you're headed. So you have to be able to show how has the organization evolved over time. And always, always, always within your style guide, keep a history of the logo, because it can show you things that have been done in the past. Let's say you want to pull something from an older logo and add it into this one or into the updated logo, you're able to do that. If you don't have a catalog history of that, it's hard to do or hard to be able to pull upon where you've come from to be able to show where you're headed. And that was one of the things, especially here at United Partners for Human Services with our logo, that I wanted to keep was I wanted to show a transition, not necessarily a change in focal point, but a transition to we are headed in a different direction, right? We're doing things at a different level. We may have started as this way, but now we're here. If anyone hasn't noticed, our old logo used to have at the bottom the voice for human services. Now we've changed to the power of the collective. It's little things like that of what is the focus of the organization at that time to be able to take the reins and really convey the message that you're looking for within the logo. Said a lot of words. I hope that answered the question. Please let me know if there's something specific that you're looking for out of that so I can answer that directly. But I hope that answered the question. And then Sarah, so do companies need to copyright their style guides or something similar? So yes, most companies do copyright the logo or trademark their logos just in case they run into an issue. And that's a legality issue. So if somebody is using your logo inappropriately and they won't, go back or won't change what you're asking them to, you can easily send them a cease and desist letter through your legal, your legal reprise or whoever that is. If you have an attorney or a firm on hand to be able for them to not do that. And why? Because you have a style guide. The biggest reason you can't do that is if you don't have a style guide. The style guide will set forth all policies and procedures when it comes to the brand and the forward-facing things for your organization. If you've never had one in the existence of the organization, or if it needs to be updated, that's why I'm impressing upon you all to make sure that it's a living document and that you're consistently looking it over and updating it consistently, because it won't be able to be fixed or changed if it wasn't something that was always there. So if you run into an issue where an organization is using your logo and you don't have a style guide to say how though the logo can be utilized, then it's hard for it to legally be fought. And the organization can just take it and run with it and do what they do, which is why I asked the question at the beginning of, have you seen someone use your logo or change things and be able to do those things? And then Serena, I see you said, thank you. I'm in a situation where I don't have record of style guides, who did designs or event or even the master vector files, which is tough. So it would be a bigger push to start that record and suggest changes. Absolutely. Please just start with what you have, because again, starting the process is going to be a lot harder. But if it never starts, then it's going to put your organization in a different place than what it's doing. So what if a company has the same pronunciation, however, different spellings? Do you need to copyright or trademark? So that is a funny one. It's a finicky one, but it's a funny one. And the reason why I say that is because there are plenty of organizations, as we know, that have similar names or similar stylings of things. And that is hard to copyright because everybody uses, the and a and different things like that as well. But impact and impact, let's say different ways. The only thing that you're copywriting or trademarking is the stylization of how it is used. So if impact doesn't have a T on it, let's say you just do impact, like pack, and let's say your organization that works on collective hubs for homeless communities, impact, and they create little packs of communities for the homeless. They stylized it that way because the service does that. With your impact in PAC, you would stylize it in that way, but we all know that your MPAC is an acronym for motivating people through arts and crafts, right? So the copyrighted name would be motivating people through arts and crafts. Impact would be copyrighted as the stylization of that logo. But if somebody also uses impact, IMPACT, or impact in any other way, EMPACT, or any variation of that, it won't go against what you're doing, or it won't be against you, because again, stylization wise, it's very similar but very different. Something we see in music a lot as well too, with like samples. I'm a musician, so I use that as an example. Like samples, really close, but if it's not the same, they can't really have the legal grounds to be able to say what's what. Any more questions, any more comments for me before we head on to the next phase? Alrighty, well, we're almost to the end. And I want to talk about implementing and maintaining style guides, right? So as you've heard me say a lot through this presentation, and I put it at the bottom here in italicized words, style guides are living documents, right? They live as long as the organization lives. As long as you are a brand, as long as you're doing the things that you're doing, that document stays just as alive as you do, right? And that's because it is catalyzing or categorizing or cataloging the history of your organization. It is stating what can and cannot be done. It's doing all of those things. So even with our style guide here at UPHS, I've historically cataloged our logos from past to present. So it again just sticks around with the organization, because again, me, Justin Fitzpatrick, I could not be in this position tomorrow. Something could happen and I'm not here, but the person that comes into this position has to be able to work with documents or work with things to be able to make the process easier and to continue to update it and make sure that it's being kept up. If it's never been done, be the start, be the legacy holder, create that legacy for your organization. If it has been done, great job. Keep the torch alive and keep passing it down. Because if you don't, if there's some hang up or breakup, the second that you need to update a logo, change a phrase, change a catchphrase, change a URL or something, you might have used something before that's never been used. You might say, oh, this is a great idea. And they'll go, oh, we used that before. Oh, I never knew. It becomes this whole hang up within the organization of things. So collaboration. So you involve relevant stakeholders in the creation and updates of style guides, ensuring buy-in and adherence. So here at UPHS, I'll update it, but everybody on the team sees it and will offer input within that as well, right? Our board will see those things. Like the different people will have a chance to offer feedback on what's missing, what should be there, and how it should be utilized. Accessibility. So making them easily accessible to all team members involved in content creation and design, right? I might not be the only person here. As our team continues to grow, I might not be the only person doing flyers and things, but how can the person that is helping me or assisting our organization in doing that know what to do? It's a style guide. It's putting that in their hands. It's emailing it to them. As you see, a lot of entities nowadays put it on their websites. It's just already there. It's uploaded. So you can tell them, hey, go visit our website, click here, boom, everything that you need on how to utilize our logo or how to utilize the brand of our organization is here. And then regular updates. Brands evolve, and so should style guides. Schedule periodic reviews and update them to keep them relevant, right? Excuse me. Like I said, this organization is living as long as you are, as long as the organization stays alive. So every document around that, just like you update your bylaws, just like you update your board, just like you update handbooks, everything within an entity or organization, the style guide is also that kind of document. Will it be focused on for one portion of that organization, i.e. the content people, marketing people, communications people? More than likely, but they have that responsibility as well to keep it alive. So please ensure that within your organizations, if it's you yourself, that person that you're on the call today doing it, or you're an ED that has somebody that does this work for you, please ensure that they're keeping the updated versions of style guides as much as possible as you change policies or different things happen within the organization. And again, I'm going to emphasize style guides are living documents. Please don't let them die. Please don't let them die. Please don't let them die. Case study. Before I get into our case study here, I do see I have another message here from Serene. And she said, I know you meant accessibility in a different way, but could you touch on how to go about integrating accessibility for disabled people in the style guide in the same way you ensure your website is compliant for accessibility? So I'm going to ask a question. You can kind of raise your hand or type in the chat, yes or no. How many of you have ever heard of the phrase alternate text? Anybody? All right. I'm happy. I'm happy that you haven't heard of that because it is a thing. And the reason why I say that, oh, perfect. Yes, yes, no. Okay. The reason why I say that, and I'm happy that the two people that said yes, I know the reason why you said yes. And the ones that said no, that's okay. We're going to teach you about it today. Alternate text on photos that you post on social media allow people that have a hard ability to see understand the photo that is in front of them. So people that use social media, a lot of times Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of them offer a box that says alt text or alternate text, right? That you can utilize there. That is supposed to help individuals that have issues with their eyesight. So it can describe the photo to them through the softwares that are available on your computer. Like many times you may have accidentally hit the text to read on your TV or on your computer, and now you're getting this descriptive language of a TV show. It's like, oh, sky is blue. And you're like, where did this come from? Those things are designed and created so that people that have disabilities from vision or hard of hearing are able to see things or experience things in the same way that able-bodied people are as well. So please ensure that as you're doing this on your website, a lot of different things, even when you update your website, when you put photos and things on it, you do have a box on the side. I know with Wix, GoDaddy, a lot of those platforms, Squarespace, any of them that you utilize, Hostinger, they have a box for you to type in, like how does the photo describe or how does it look? And you can give that description. It is to help that community of people. It is to assist them. So from an accessibility standpoint, in the way that Seren has asked me, you want to make sure that you're utilizing all of those features that are available in those platforms to assist people to utilize your website. Because we've heard it. We, especially with our organization, we've heard of individuals that couldn't access documents, that couldn't access websites because they didn't have the things adequate within the system to be able to do those things to help that audience be able to reach it. So please ensure, like, as you use these alternate text, vision impaired, blind people to utilize those and to request those services as well. And if you need my assistance in doing that, I am here as well as assistance as UPHS members to come out and help you within your websites to update those things and keep them alive. All right. So my favorite part in our last 15 minutes, this is the end of the presentation. Oh, sad faces everywhere. This is the end of our presentation, but I like to end this off with the organization that I started with, right? And our first slide talked about Airbnb. Airbnb's rebrand to me is top 5 of the greatest rebrands I've ever seen done by an organization ever. And the reason why is because I don't even know how many of you used Airbnb before it became this logo that it is today. Do any of you recognize these Airbnb logos from when they started in 2007 to where they are in 2014, which is the greatest year ever? That was my graduating year of high school. So we're going to throw that out there too. But to 2014, how many of you knew about Airbnb prior to 2014 or 2015 or when you started utilizing? So it's so funny that a lot of you are shaking your head no or stating no, because they ran into this issue. Yes, Miss Jacqueline, go ahead and you can either come off mute or share a message in the chat.
I hit the wrong button. I meant to say I've seen some of this, but that would date me from what you're saying. So yeah, I just hit the wrong button. That just dates me. Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So absolutely, see, some of us have seen this logo, and that's all right. That's cool. I just wanted to see if anybody did, because this was my little wild card that I wanted to throw in the presentation today. But Airbnb ran into an issue, right, where they had outgrown the brand that they had presented, right? And when they got to this place, they consulted with a design firm called Design Studio, which is actually a global organization, a global business throughout the US and other countries, London, I think, and China as well. So they were looking to become more meaningful in their messaging, right? Because they had outgrown this bed and breakfast, and allowing people to stay in these dwelling places, for a short time to be able to interact instead of going through a hotel or other ways. They wanted to find a way to visually identify that we do more than that. We're not just bed and breakfast. We're not just an apparatus for you to find somewhere to stay. So Design Studio said they needed to create a brand. And through this, they started to look at the historical aspect of what Airbnb was. And Airbnb's tagline, which is hilarious to me, was a place to stay. We know that Airbnb, that's why we use you. But it's more than that, right? Airbnb yes, it is a place to stay, but for that to be your tagline and that's what you sell and how you get people to be a part of it, that's a little tough, right? It's a little challenging. So it was San Francisco headquartered. It was only in 18 cities at this point in 2014 when they were undergoing this process with Design Studio. So as Design Studio started to comb through the history of the organization and what it did and trying to develop the new brand for what Airbnb is or what Airbnb becomes, they started to realize that Airbnb's truth wasn't about being a place to stay. It was about belonging. It was about allowing people to travel to different countries, to travel to different experiences, different cultures, and belong and be a part of that, right? And because of that, that's when they started to create what is now known as the Bello, or this wonderful little icon as you see here, the Bello logo. And they wanted to create something that represented belonging. It transcends language, and it's simple enough that it can be drawn by anybody, from a 4-year-old kid to a 99-year-old person. They wanted to be able to show all of this within a logo. So the wonderful graphic I have here at the bottom is how they created the Bello logo. People plus places plus love plus Airbnb, or the letter A, created Bello. And because of that, they were able to now shift the conversation from oh, we're giving you a place to stay, to you want to experience New York. You want to belong to the culture that's there. You want to see a Broadway show. You want to do these things. You want to see Times Square. Let us assist you in belonging to the world and being a part of it. Oh, you want to travel the country. You want to go to China or, Spain or any of these other countries. Airbnb works everywhere. We transcend the language. We're bigger there. We get you to those places. We assist you in building that bridge. So it changed and it shifted their language and messaging from location and price to focusing on, we're putting you in a safe space. You belong here and you're going to have a great time because you utilize our services to do that, right?
Oh.
So because of that, this rebrand that they rolled out in 2014, when it happened, it trended on Twitter. It won a host of awards and became globally recognized. And as all of us can recognize now, we all use Airbnb because of this iconic logo and this iconic messaging that they put forth of belonging and being a part and being able to share a piece of the world through this apparatus. Like, you're able to travel to these different areas through this apparatus because we want you to. We want you to be a part of this. Their valuation propelled to 29 billion above their next closest competitor in 4 years because of this. When they became a publicly traded organization or a publicly traded entity, the price more than doubled from the $68 a share the day before. So in one day, the share price doubled. And it gave them a market cap of about $86.5 billion, which is well beyond any of the competitors that they have today. So again, I'm using this case study because this design studio, and it's a lot of local entities that do this work as well. And they do it this defined as well too. They look into your history. They look into what is the message you're trying to convey. The messaging and the brand identity of what your organization does can change the trajectory that your organization is currently on. But it only does that if you know where you've been and where you're trying to go. And you can't do that without a style guide. You have to have it in place. So please, 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 through all of this, through this entire presentation, if there's anything you didn't take in, or if there's anything that I still am not certain of, that this just gave you the launching pad today to be able to start a style guide. It's needed for your organization to ensure that you have that protection basis so people don't manipulate and take and change what you're doing. But it also allows you to show the trajectory of the path that you're on. So then when somebody comes in, or when an organization comes in, a business comes in, to be able to assist you in showing the trajectory or showing the story that you're trying to craft through your organization, through your business, through yourself, it gives them an identity to work on. It gives them an identity to work off of and then develop it into something more. So all of that to say, do we have any questions or final thoughts that would like to be shared? I do see we have some questions here or some comments. Yeah, don't recognize any of the pre-2015 logos. I'll go back for a second. Yeah, none of these logos I recognized either before 2014, but that's why it became one of the greatest success stories I've ever seen. Is because they literally changed in 10 years. That's when they really hit their mark. They might have been a small $1 million company or a small company that was making it but not doing it before they got there, but it took off. Once that rebrand happened, it changed the entire focus of what the organization does. I think I mainly heard of the idea of the company, but never seen the logo prior to 2014. Understandable. All right, so Serene has, what are some pros and cons of having event-specific style guides? I've made unique soft guides for each of our events, but not sure if that's advisable. So it's funny you say that because some people like to use branding guide and style guide, right? Branding guide and style guides are two different things. Style guides really craft the perspective, the historical perspective of the organization, ensuring that the brand of the organization is being shared in the right way or the right light. A branding guide is more so the perspective of an event, initiative, or things you're doing, and how are we crafting the messaging around that, right? If the event has its own logo, if the event has its own, whatever, everything within it or that it encompasses, create those. I say you're on the right path. Continue to create those for those events because, again, the person that steps into your role after you are gone will have the playbook. They'll be able to do this work a lot easier because if they don't, or if it's not there for them when they come into the position, then I have to reinvent the wheel. And nobody wants to do that. People want to be able to take, let's say you leave a legacy of, this event is the best event that this organization puts on every single year. if I come in as a new person, that's a lot of strife. That's a lot of anxiety you're building into me. Oh, I have to take this event and make it as good as last person did, and I don't have anything to work with. Now I'm afraid I'm a fumble. Now I'm afraid I'm gonna mess it up. So continue to do that. I think that's a huge pro to it. The only con that I would give you for that is it is laborious. It does take a lot of work to continuously do it. But once you start it, it's just like with anything. Once you start the process of it, once you see what the process or how it works, then you're able to kind of go in and finally tinker with things and fix like small problems or small fires. And I would rather have little fires everywhere where I can kind of put them out at one at a time instead of one big fire that I have to kind of take on in the moment. And then my agency has two different halves. They overlap sometimes, like both logos will be present and ads will be made for both at the same time, but have completely different branding. Should I be seeking to push with the board and leadership to align with those more? I would say only if the two logos align, like they have to align 8 times out of 10. If they're two different things, I would keep them separate. You would have to create separate style guides for them. You'll have to, because the messagings are going to be different. If y'all align on a specific thing, or if the logos align on a specific thing, then I would say, hey, maybe we create a dual logo for that. So then when we have to craft a message that represents both sides, it's already made. But most times you can get away with just putting two logos on, a letterhead or two logos on a message and saying that it specifies that. But if the messaging, unless the messagings are aligned like 100% of the time, it's very hard to get away with that, because one entity could focus on this, but they focus on this perspective of it. And one entity could focus on this and it focuses on a completely different perspective. And one of the things I just stated today is if you don't control the narrative will control you. So you have to get in front of it and be able to describe or ensure the descriptions of what each of those logos do is being known to the greater community at hand, because people will make their own suggestions of what it is supposed to be, and then you can't control it because people are just going, because word of mouth, people are just going to say, oh, go here for this because they do this, and they might end up at the wrong entity of the two logos. And it's like, oh, you have to be able to get in front of it and update it and do those things. So I would say seek with your board to align them individually first. And then if you see overlap, then think of ways that you can create things to ensure that overlap doesn't conflict one another. I hope that answered that. I just completed a federal training program about marketing and outreach. Should this be added to the budget as a line item? So style guides, honestly, are free. And the reason why I say they're free is because if you already have a logo and different things around it, you can sit down to create it. Now, if you want to hire somebody or contract with somebody to be able to do this work for you or market it, or to hire somebody to add to your staff to do that, then that's when it becomes a budgeted line item. And then within that, you can create a marketing budget. So you give that person or give persons the ability to, do paid ads or go out for media things and different things like that. But I wouldn't say add it as a line item to create a style guide, because you can make it out of a Word doc. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be this flashy, all these flashy booklets and things I've shown you today. It can be very easy as just something on your website that just states, hey, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Please abide by this. Found it on Canva and tweaked it. Good. Thank you so much. Thanks. I feel I need a separate guide just for times when I use both logos at the same time, since it's two different sets of typeface and like 8 colors altogether. And that's why I say, please just ensure that you probably have to create both for both. And it just will give you clear guidelines. And again, when the next person comes in behind you, it gives them clear guidelines of how to utilize this logo, how to utilize this one, and ensuring that overlap doesn't conflict. I do see it's 3:01. I try to end this right at 3 o'clock, but I know the questions kind of took us over. Thank you all for your time. I'm gonna go through because we did our questions and final thoughts. Thank you. This is my contact information here. Please feel free to reach out to me. UPHS members, you have access to me here at the office at any time, where you can come in or schedule some time with me to kind of start moving these and making this happen for your organization. So please sit down and do your due diligence with this, because it only makes your organization better.
Well, again, thank you so much, Justin. Amazing job. We loved all the questions and feedback. As Justin stated, please reach out. He's happy to sit one-on-one. Out of this, we'll actually be doing some small work groups, because this is an area that a lot of agencies are working, trying to work through with rebranding and special events. So stay tuned for that. We hope you all have an amazing rest of the day. Don't forget the UPHS Member Social is next Thursday at Hotel Indigo from 2 to 4. We hope to see you there. Talk to you later. Bye, everybody.